for it. So on the class notes page, right, for Friday, I just put this link to a student example essay. Just if you want to see what it is, it's basically you just put all these parts together, right? And each one has its own sort of title or heading, I guess. But if you want to see an example, that is an example there on the class notes. I also put it on the main page. So there's that. Okay, I want to talk about this appendix thing. So I think in class I was talking about people writing the results section, and I started thinking what would be more useful is that if you did this, put together this appendix document, and then you could do the writing of it later. So it's not, so the results section is not going to be due on Sunday but this appendix thing is. Let me show you what it's supposed to be. And I've talked about some of this, but I'm now sort of talking about it, putting it on a document. So here's the deal. I think the easiest thing to do is to start a new document and then just copy and paste all of the charts that you have, right? So here's the point I wanted to make about the charts. So if you go to your survey and you click on responses and you scroll down, you'll start to see some charts that it made, right, out of your data. So you can copy the chart and paste that onto the new document. However, it's a good idea to maybe use the spreadsheet instead. So here I am in the spreadsheet land, right? I I click on the letter to highlight the entire column. Then I do insert and I do chart. Okay, so it does it automatically. But check this out. See, the actual labels are kind of useless here, meaning I can't even see what they are. It doesn't, because it doesn't have any. I mean, it doesn't have enough language or room or whatever. So you can change the chart type, right? And the reason to do that is to make it clearer in some way. So if I choose this bar chart, look at the labels, right? You have a chance of actually sort of understanding what this is actually measuring because these labels are so long. Um, so that would be my suggestion, is that you want to pick the one that is clearest as far as the numbers go. Like, this is just terrible, don't know what this means. And also the clearest as far as showing all the labels. Now, you might not have this trouble because I think in the other one, if you just copy and paste it straight from the survey, they're almost all pie charts, and it's possible that you can see all the labels perfectly fine. So in any event, I would just go through, copy it, paste, put all of them onto a new document. So you have 20 of them basically. Then you're going to scroll through them and sort of decide which ones have useful information, because you don't need to be dealing with all 20 of these. In fact, what you want to do is probably pick, you want to pick like 3 to 5, 3 or 4 from the first 10 questions about narrative and persuasion, and then 3 to 5 from the last 10 questions, which is about your subject. Like, that's how many you actually want to have and be able to use. And so that's sort of how many you want to have on this appendix document. So all you're doing is you put them all on a document, then you scroll through, you get rid of ones you don't want or you don't think will be very useful, and you'll end up with the ones that are good. The next thing is to do what we were talking about last class, which is you need to make a statement about you need to present the information that's on the chart in a way that has meaning, and also in a way that explains what it means, like what the actual meaning is. So if I'm going to say 75% of people, like 50% of students said they know ChatGPT well enough to explain it, and 25% said they know what it is in general. So this means that 3/4 of the class are familiar with it, showing a strong foundation for advanced ChatGPT assignments. All right, that's me. I mean, I decided sort of that's the conclusion, and that's what you're trying to do too. So if you look at these helpful sentence starters or templates, right? So you want percentages. See, I think this should be percentages. Um, and then you want, at the end, I put these words, right? So 10% of respondents said this, which suggests something or demonstrates, right, something, or which means something, or which illustrates. So you want to make sure your statements end with that. It just forces you to decide what they mean, right? And make them have a meaning. So what you're looking for are um, majorities, right? Or if you can combine percentages to create majorities, so you can create a statement that sort of covers more than one of them. But that's the goal, because majorities, that's usually significant, right? So you're trying to present significant information from the charts. And majorities, that's one way to make a chart significant. Like a surprise, something surprising, although I don't know if we'll have a lot of that, but um, if there's something surprising in the data, that's another way to decide what what you can put. Or and I say if there's something that's surprising slash or like very small, like only 3 people out of 50 said this. If that's meaningful, then you use that. But that's what your job is in this, as far as this stuff goes. You're trying to figure out what to say about it. That like present significant information from it, and then you want to say what it means, which suggests. All right, so this one was 28.6 of students believe any and all students should be allowed to use ChatGPT. And then I did a comparison thing here, right? This is only slightly less than students who think ChatGPT should not be used in school at all, which suggests the current deep division about using AI in school. So I started to this thing like they're similar in a way, just shows it. And that's it. So that's Appendix B. And then when you write up the results section will be due only in the final draft. And when you write it up, you'll just use this document and you'll say all the things you've already said, right? But you'll put it in a paragraph form. You'll also relate it a little bit to your subject more. But basically, this is all the information you need to do that, to write those 2 paragraphs. So do this Appendix B for the rough draft, and then you write the actual results sections later. You might want to do this. So there's a document here, which is just sort of a simplified thing of what I'm just gonna go through slides pretty quickly, and these are basically just an easy, simple list of the slides. So I'm talking about the rubric. So this is the assignment where you're going to create a rubric to get feedback on your writing, like we did once before. And so these are the steps that you take. And so if you download that document, then you'll have that. You can check that out, because I think it's easier to do that. I don't know, it depends, I guess, than it is to look at slides. But here's how it's going to go. I'm just going to run through these because we did them, but I'm trying to like remind people of them, I suppose. Okay, so you start a document. This is how you're going to do this feedback. The very first thing, right? You need to tell the AI, tell ChatGPT who it is and what it can do, right? So it's an expert in writing, in making rubrics, in assessing student writing, in any of the things, right? You can put all the things, in fact. So I would make it be an expert in all that stuff. I would also make it be an expert in theory of narrative persuasion, and also maybe even in your 2 particular narratives, right? So you are an expert in these fields, and then it has some good context for what it produces from then on. So establish the roles. The next thing is you say, okay, so that's who you are. The next thing is, what abilities will you need to use in order to make a rubric and assess and give feedback? And it will come up with 4 to 5 abilities, like critical thinking and assessing the use of evidence, or whatever it comes up with. but that's another way it limits sort of and sets up the different kinds of whatever mental processes that'll go down, right? That it needs to focus on. It knows it needs to be able to do these things. Um, all right, now this is where you need to find information about the discussion section and attach it or copy and paste it so that it knows what the actual assignment is. So if you looked on like even today's notes, I mean, there's a lot of, but there's the outline is on today's notes. I would definitely give it that. I might even, if I had like this little box thing, I probably would give it that. Like I would rather give it more things so it has an idea of what's going on better. So I would, you sort of attach those or copy and paste them in. And then once you have it ready to go, you could just say, go ahead and read and review the documents. You could do that. But if you do that, then you still need to do this second part. And this is where you ask it, what are the um, key assessment areas in this assignment? So this is an assignment specific thing, right? Um, so it looks over your assignment and then decides these are the things that need to be assessed. Topic sentences, um, maybe thesis, maybe paragraph development, maybe use of sources and quotes or whatever. So this is what criteria is. And you can use that language also. I mean, key assessment is probably better, but it ends up being creating the criteria for what is being assessed. So now it knows the processes it needs to do, knows who it is, knows what the assignment is, and now it knows like what specific criteria it's going to judge the writing on. All right, and so then you have all of that, and then it's time to be like, I need a rubric structure, right? So I need performance levels for a rubric that is going to assess an assignment on the assessment things that you just figured out from the last step. And hopefully automatically it will, do the 5 levels of performance, and then it'll also fill in the little boxes, right, for like each one. So like what what excellence in a topic sentence is, and what proficient in a topic sentence is, and what's satisfactory, and so on. So then you'll have the actual grid, the rubric grid from that. Again, if it doesn't do that automatically, you can ask it to do that. So you go ahead and put in descriptions for each level, for each criteria, like that. All right, and then you're refining the rubric. This is where you're looking over the criteria, and this is where you really need to make sure that it's useful to you. Because it can pick just general things about writing and say, yep, I'm going to assess it on this. So for one time, it did this for me. It's going to assess clarity and coherence. Like, oh, great. First of all, that's so vague that I don't really know that that's going to be very helpful for me. And so I'm looking and I'm thinking, what would be good is if it just did a focus on just the thesis statement of the thing I was writing, right? So I got rid of clarity and coherence and replaced it with just the thesis statement as a criterion. Um, so that's what this part is. This is where you're refining it. You're just going through the criteria, making sure, is this the stuff you want to find out about? You want to find out about topic sentence? You want to find out about research? You want to find out what can be developed more? Whatever it is, you want to make sure it's there in the rubric. So then the last part here is you've got to get instructions. So you want it to create instructions for an AI assistant, because that's who you'll be giving it to in a minute, right? So you want to make it clear that's who it's for, and you want to make it clear what it needs to do. So it should read over and understand the instructions. It should like have a good understanding of it. It should be able to evaluate. It should be able to score. It should be able to provide specific suggestions. If you want, you could maybe it should quote directly from your writing when it makes suggestions, right? If that's relevant or something, then that might be helpful too. So you want to end up with a list, not a long list, but it can be, but whatever, of 5 or 6 different instructions that you're going to put at the very beginning so that the AI assistant you use knows what it's supposed to do right away. so you have that instructions, and then we put this all in the 4-row thing. So you create a table with 4 rows. You copy and paste the instructions that you just got at the very beginning. You copy and paste the rubric that you got already earlier. Row 3 again is just, you may not need it at all, but I just put it, it's just a sort of signal that right after this row is the writing that it's going to assess, whatever it is. So assignment is below. Assess the assignment below, or anything just to signal it. And then you copy and paste your essay that you're writing, and then you have all of it in one document. Then you copy the entire document and you put that document into an AI assistant, ChatGPT or something. So this is an actual assignment. And these are the things you turn in with it. It's due before the final draft is due, because the theory is you would do this before, right? And then improve the essay. So the assignment is you list all of the prompts that you used, right? You put the completed rubric, like all 4 rows. You put that on the document that you're going to turn in. You copy and paste the actual feedback that you got from ChatGPT. And then at the very end of it, I just want you to describe sort of 3 specific changes you're going to make because of it. Right. So you go through the feedback and you decide, here's the 3 things, and you just write them down and tell me what that is. And then you submit that. Let me look at the calendar real quick. So essay 3, so that's a feedback rubric, right? It's due, let me make sure here. So it's due on the 4th, which is Sunday. So you want to have it, get it done, and so you need to have obviously a rough draft of the writing part, and then you do the rubric, you run the rubric, and then so have that information there, and then the actual final draft of this is due on the 8th. Okay. Okay, so on the sign-in page, you're just checking off Appendix B if you understand what you're supposed to do. That's essentially it, right? Because I don't expect people to put this together if they haven't yet, like in 10 minutes or whatever. So check that off if you understand it. Also check off the feedback rubric if you have a handle on that. Again, an idea would be to get a usable document, I guess. Okay, last thing I'm going to talk about is the discussion section. So here's the idea. I've said it, but I want to, maybe this will help clarify it. So what you're actually writing about in the discussion section, right? So we all have our main broad narratives. AI's going to ruin education. AI is going to help education. Those are too broad, so we have picked more specific perspectives in that narrative. So I have specific harms that are going to happen, students' ability to think critically, and then human instruction will be lost and make it lonely and miserable. And then I have positives. AIs help instructors teach better material or deeper and more relevant to students, and students can have individualized education that meets their needs. So I have these very specific things. So all I'm doing in this discussion section is I'm comparing these 2, one from the positive world or one from the negative world, and then this from the positive world. So these are the 2 that I'm comparing. And what I'm using to compare are these narrative persuasive elements. So transportation. So I need to talk about how transportation is used to persuade in the first perspective over here, how it's used to persuade in the second perspective over here. And then I'm going to explain which one is more persuasive, like which one does it work better in and why that is. So I do compare those 2 using transportation. Then I do the same thing with reflection. I compare the same 2, but now I'm trying to say, here's how reflection works in this perspective, right? Here's how reflection works in this perspective. And then which of these is it works is it more persuasive in, like it's more effective in positive perspective because of whatever reason, right? And then I just do it again. I move to perspective 2, and then this other one, and I just use whatever I've chosen as the elements: character identification, compare it, talk about character identification in each one, which one's uses it better, vicarious experience, same thing. So that's essentially it. That's why the outline is 4 things, right? And that's why I was like, there's 4 topic sentences, because those are basically it. Each one, you compare 2 perspectives, and you use 1 narrative persuasive element. And we spent some time earlier on trying to figure out which ones would work, right? So I'm assuming people have figured that out. If not, what we did do was ask ChatGPT. I think we put in the perspectives and the sheet that has all the definitions of the narrative persuasion stuff, and tried to be like, so which one of these would be best, to talk about? So which of these elements is most relevant to this perspective? So that's how, I think that was one way we did it, and we came up with what we're going to talk about. Okay. So at the moment, I'm thinking also probably a Zoom class or even a Zoom check-in. Those are I think, everything except for the final. So what I'll probably do, we'll just do Zoom on Monday, and then I'll explain what the final is going to be, remember. But also, again, the final is like, it'll be open for a week. No one's coming into class. You'll have a week to do it, and it needs to all be done, just like all of the work needs to be done by the 8th at 2:30. So that's our deadline. Right. So I'll probably think the final exam will be online, right? Last class is Wednesday, and then I can put it online. So maybe Wednesday night or Thursday morning. So then you'll have essentially a week to do it. And you can do it whenever. It's not a timed thing. Like, I don't use any of the Blackboard timing or whatever. But I will talk about what it's going to be about on Monday. And then, I don't know, Wednesday, I'll just will be optional if you want to stop by and ask questions about whatever you want to ask questions about. That's sort of what I'm thinking. Still sort of doing in the Zoom world, since that seems to be where people come in. So that's all I have for today. Please do those 2 surveys if you haven't. That would be super helpful. And then email me if you have any questions at all. I'm always online. So I get back to people pretty quickly. But we'll plan on a Zoom on Monday, and I will talk to people again. Then I have the